The first message came in before I had even finished my morning tea. The venue is demanding final payment. Did you not sponsor the honeymoon? Then another. Why isn't the mother of the bride here? A third message included a blurry video clip, a wedding coordinator pacing, waving a clipboard, while my daughter, Lena Ellery Caro, rubbed her forehead. Her husband, Darren, looked furious. Even through the blur, I could tell the argument was about money. Maris Ellery, 72 years old, retired electrician, and the woman who raised Lena alone after her father died, sat in my small renovated house in Charleston, South Carolina, staring at the screen as if it were speaking a language I no longer understood. My phone buzzed again. Maris, please respond. They said you promised a transfer. I did not reply. I opened my banking app instead. The numbers sat there untouched, bright, untouched, whole. The money I had saved for 2 years. The gift I once believed would start my daughter's married life with joy. My thumb hovered over the history tab. The canceled transfer glowed faintly. The line that changed everything. A single button. Pressed 24 hours earlier. Someone else sent a voice message. A guest, whispering urgently. They are saying you backed out to embarrass them. Is that true? I set the phone down on the table. For a moment, I simply breathed, slow and controlled. The way my late husband, Rowan, taught me when life became too loud. They think I ruined the wedding, I murmured. But to understand why I pressed that button, you need to know what happened 2 years ago. My hands rested on the table, palms flat, like I was bracing for a storm that had already come and gone. Outside, Charleston's humidity pressed against the windows, thick and heavy, but nothing compared to the weight settling in my chest. 2 years ago, I still believed love was enough. 2 years ago, I still believed my daughter would never erase me. And that is where the real story begins. 2 years ago, I was 70 years old and still waking before sunrise out of habit. Retirement never settled into my bones the way people said it would. I had spent most of my life as an electrician, one of the few women working the old houses of Charleston's West Side District. Folks on Gordon Street, Line Street, and Ashton Court knew me by name. When storms rolled through and lightning snapped the power lines, neighbors called. Maris, can you take a look? And I always went. I used to joke that I made light for others while forgetting to keep any for myself. When Rowan, my husband, died of a sudden heart attack, our daughter Lena was 13. The day I told her, she folded into my arms like she was collapsing into the only shelter she had left. For years after, it was just her and me late homework nights, broken water heaters, scraped knees, and teenage heartbreaks. I worked 2 jobs, then electrical repairs during the day. Nighttime contracts, rewiring old Charleston homes where the beams creaked like memories. Some nights, I came home with my hands shaking from exhaustion. I skipped dental appointments I could not afford, wore the same boots until the soles split, and let my own birthday pass without notice. But every time Lena smiled, something in me steadied. When she started talking about her dream wedding, nothing extravagant, just something meaningful, I began saving without telling her. 2 years of setting aside small payments from every wiring job. 2 years of dropping coins into a jar with her name taped to the front. 2 years of believing a mother's sacrifice could turn into something bright. Charleston summers felt heavier back then. The humidity thickened the air, and hurricane seasons hit harder. But whenever a neighbor lost power, I showed up with my old toolkit. They called me stubborn, but I knew the truth helping others kept me from facing the quiet of my own house. Back then, I believed I was building a future with my daughter. One small act at a time. I did not see the distance forming, not yet. I met Darren Caro on a warm Saturday afternoon. the kind when Charleston's air feels heavy enough to press against your chest. Lena walked in first, smiling too brightly, followed by a tall man in a tailored shirt that looked like it had never touched a speck of dust in its life. "Mom, this is Darren," she said, almost breathless. Darren offered his hand, firm and polite. "Mrs. Ellery, I've heard so much about you." I noticed his eyes travel across my living room, the old shelves Rowan built, my electrician's toolkit sitting near the door, the slightly uneven table I had sanded myself. His smile didn't slip, but something flickered behind it. Calculation, disapproval. I wasn't sure yet. "This place has character," he said. Lena laughed a little too quickly. "Darren's used to the new developments near the waterfront. Everything there is modern. I suppose old things just tell their stories differently," I replied. Darren nodded, but his gaze lingered on a frayed wire spool on the counter. "Do you still use those tools I do when someone needs help?" He hummed quietly, as if the idea didn't quite register as respectable work. As the weeks went on, Lena's conversations began to shift. "Mom, you should really update your kitchen. Mom, Darren says the neighborhood feels outdated. Mom, maybe you could declutter a bit before he visits again." Her voice sounded rehearsed, like she was borrowing someone else's vocabulary. One evening, while setting plates in the kitchen, I heard Darren whisper in the living room, "Your mom doesn't fit our image. The wedding will be elegant. People will talk." There was a pause. Lena did not say a word in my defense. I stood there, gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles whitened. After that, little cracks began to show. Lena canceled lunches at the last minute. Her phone calls grew shorter. Once, after a neighborhood repair job left dirt under my nails, she winced when I reached to hug her. "Mom, maybe wash up first," she whispered. The distance wasn't loud. It crept in quietly, one small echo of Darren at a time, and I felt her slipping. Right after Lena announced her engagement, I opened a new savings account at the local branch on King Street. The banker asked what name I wanted on it, and I said, "For Lena's joy." She smiled, thinking it was sweet. She did not know it was a promise I planned to keep with every aching muscle I had left. Each week, I added whatever I could, small payments from repair jobs in Charleston's historic district. The old houses always needed something: faulty outlets, aging breakers, wires that crackled when humidity rose. I took every call, even during the cold snaps when the wind stung my fingers. "I can pay you next week," a neighbor once said. "No rush," I told her. "Just glad your lights are back on." Every dollar went into the account. I watered down soup to make it last longer. I pushed off buying new glasses even though the world around me had started to blur. When my boots split along the side, I patched them with heavy tape instead of replacing them. All the while, I imagined Lena's face when I handed her the gift, a full honeymoon in Hawaii, and maybe enough left over to help with a down payment for a modest condo. Not luxury, but something secure. Something bright, something she could build a life on. One evening, Darren came by while Lena was upstairs trying on a dress she had found on sale. He glanced around my kitchen, then leaned against the counter with casual ease. "Maris," he said, "have you thought about how you want to manage your retirement funds? I work in real estate. I could help you. Make sure everything's in the right place." I wiped my hands on a towel. "My funds are fine where they are." He kept his tone light. "Sometimes older accounts slip through the cracks. Wouldn't want anything mishandled." Lena came down the stairs just in time to hear the last part. She looked uneasy but did not tell him to stop. She didn't defend me at all. I felt a chill then, sharper than any winter wind. Something was shifting, and not in my favor. 1 month before the wedding, the distance between Lena and me widened into something I could no longer step across. She stopped inviting me to dress fittings. I only learned about the florist after she posted a picture online. When I asked if she needed help addressing invitations, she said, Darren's mother already handled it, as if I were a stranger reaching into a life that no longer included me. One afternoon, while I was repairing an outdoor breaker for a neighbor, my phone buzzed. It was Lena. Mom, she wrote, Darren thinks you should maybe wear something more polished. Nothing that looks thrift store. He wants everything to appear elegant. I stared at the message until the words blurred. I typed, deleted, and typed again, finally settling on, I'll wear something simple. There was no reply. The real blow arrived 2 nights later. My phone lit up with a long notification bar. I opened it, expecting a schedule change or a small request. Instead, I read, Mom, don't come. Darren doesn't want you at the wedding. You'll ruin everything. I sat down at the edge of my bed. For a moment, I could not breathe. Every sacrifice, every bowl of watered-down soup, every winter night spent fixing other people's lights so I could deposit $20 extra, every dream I held for her collapsed into that one sentence. My phone buzzed again. A reminder from the bank. Scheduled transfer to honeymoon account will process tomorrow. The words pulsed like a heartbeat. I opened the banking app. The balance glowed. The culmination of 2 years of hope. My thumb hovered over the scheduled transfer. I felt the tremor in my hand. The old ache of choosing love over dignity. Not this time. I pressed cancel transfer. Then, with steady fingers, I moved the entire balance into a temporary hold account that required in-person authorization for any withdrawal. The screen cleared. The numbers shifted, and a quiet calm settled in my chest. One small decision, after a lifetime of bending, finally held its own weight. Lena called the next morning, her voice sharp enough to cut straight through me. Mom, what did you do? She snapped. Darren said you canceled something. Are you trying to sabotage the wedding? I canceled the transfer, I said quietly. You told me not to come. Lena, I listened. You always twist things. She shot back. You love playing the victim. Her words hit harder than any cold wind off the harbor. Before I could respond, another voice came through the speaker, Darren's. Mrs. Ellery, he said. Smooth, but icy. This situation is becoming concerning. There are legal avenues if someone your age can no longer manage her finances properly. We can help straighten things out. I don't need your help, I replied. He hummed thoughtfully, like I was a problem being measured. After the call ended, I sat in silence, palms sweating. My phone rang again, an unfamiliar number. Mrs. Ellery, a man asked. This is Jason from Harborview Catering, calling to confirm your signature on the final contract. My what? My voice shook. I did not sign anything. An uneasy pause followed. Well, someone did. Using your name. When the call ended, the room felt colder. The truth slotted into place piece by piece. Darren had started using my name, my identity, as leverage for their expenses. I stood, grabbed a light jacket, and walked next door to Colleen Travers's porch. She was 68, blunt, and steady as a pillar after a storm. What happened? She asked. Seeing my face, I told her everything: the text, the threats, the forged contract. Colleen leaned back, arms crossed. Maris, you can love your daughter without giving her the knife to cut you. Her words landed heavy but true. That was the moment I knew this was no longer just about hurt feelings. I needed protection, real protection. My next step would not be emotional. It would be legal. Colleen drove me to the small brick office on Rutledge Avenue, the one with a brass plaque that read, Nadia Ortiz, elder law attorney. Inside, the air smelled faintly of old paper and lemon polish. Nadia, a woman in her 40s with steady eyes, motioned for me to sit. Tell me everything. she said. I handed her the catering vendor's voicemail, the text from Lena, and the notes I'd written about Darren's comments. Nadia listened without interrupting, her pen tapping lightly against the legal pad. Maris. She finally said, "This is not a misunderstanding, Bissell. This is coercion. And the signature on that contract, it's not yours. That alone is grounds for a fraud alert." Her tone held no judgment, only precision. "I did not want any of this." I whispered. "I know," she replied. "But you're here now, and you're going to protect yourself." She outlined a plan, speaking with calm authority. "First, we establish a revocable living trust. Your home and all savings go into it under your control only. No one can access them without violating the trust itself." I nodded slowly. "Second," she continued, "I want a clause added if anyone uses your identity or pressures you financially. They automatically become a liable party under the trust. That triggers an immediate legal review and possible investigation." It felt like she had opened a door I did not know existed. She called the bank while I sat across from her, within minutes. The branch manager, Elias Grant, a soft-spoken man with salt and pepper hair, joined via speakerphone. "Mrs. Ellery," he said, "I can add enhanced verification on your accounts. Any unusual activity will be frozen and reported directly to Attorney Ortiz." "Thank you," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. When the documents were ready, Nadia slid them toward me. My hands trembled as I signed, but not from fear. Determination had weight too. As the pen lifted from the final page, something shifted inside me, quiet, firm, unmistakably mine. On the morning of the wedding, I put on the dress I had bought months earlier, a soft blue one with sleeves that hid the scars on my arms from years of electrical work. I sat at my kitchen table. The fabric pooled around me, the house silent except for the hum of the old refrigerator. I was dressed for a moment I would not attend. By noon, the messages started. "Maris, the venue is saying the final payment is missing. Did something go wrong? Do you know anything about the honeymoon booking? The hotel said no reservation exists. Where is the mother of the bride?" My phone vibrated nonstop, buzzing across the table like a frantic insect. Then Lena's name appeared. I answered. Her voice tore through the speaker. "How could you do this to me? Everyone is asking about the missing payments. You humiliated me in front of Darren's family." "I did not humiliate you," I said. "I canceled the gift when you canceled me." "You're twisting things again," she snapped. "You know how important this was." I steadied my breath. "You told me not to come. You said I would ruin everything. I believed you." There was a sharp inhale on the other end, anger, surprise, or maybe recognition. Darren's voice cut in behind her. "Maris, this is grounds for legal action. You interfered with our contracts, and we can pursue damages. I will make sure you answer for this." I felt no fear this time. "You go ahead," I replied. He paused, confused by my calm. That afternoon, while the wedding unraveled in real time, Attorney Nadia Ortiz sent a formal notice to Lena and Darren. Their phone numbers were registered as contacts in the trust's flagged communications list. Any threats? Attempts to access funds or financial coercion had activated the fraud clause. By evening, Darren's voice messages had shifted from rage to stumbling excuses. I stayed seated at my table in the quiet house, the blue dress soft beneath my hands. The wedding fell apart miles away, but the collapse didn't reach me. I had already felt the loss long before the ceremony ever began. Within a week of the wedding disaster, rumors began drifting through Charleston's west side like pollen on a hot breeze. Darren and Lena wasted no time crafting their version of the story. Maris is confused these days. She forgets things. I think she's declining. She ruined the wedding because she couldn't manage her own finances. I heard pieces of it at the corner store, at the mailbox, even from a neighbor's niece who worked at a bakery near the waterfront. Some people looked at me with hesitation, unsure of what to believe. Others, people who had known me for decades, stood firm. Colleen marched across my yard one morning, arms crossed. "They are saying you're losing your mind," she announced. Well, I sighed. Truth doesn't need to shout, but lies always do. She snorted, and lies always trip over themselves eventually. Nadia kept her promise. She filed affidavits detailing the forged catering signature, the hostile messages, and the attempted financial coercion. 2 days later, she called. Maris. The bank confirmed what we suspected. The signature on that vendor contract was forged. We also found login attempts on your account traced to an address linked to Darren Caro. My stomach tightened, not from shock, but from confirmation. Elias, the bank manager, followed up with another call. "We have clear identity theft indicators. We are forwarding everything to the fraud division and local authorities." The fallout began quickly. Darren's employer, a real estate development firm, learned of the investigation. He was placed on immediate suspension. Word spread faster than he could contain it. The confident man who once lectured me about proper financial management now avoided every public place where someone might recognize him. Meanwhile, Lena tried reaching me. At first, her messages were sharp. "Mom, stop this. You're making things worse." Then they softened. "Mom, can we talk, please?" I didn't know things would go this far. I responded with one sentence: "If you come here, come with truth." She didn't reply. Days passed. Darren's messages stopped altogether. His car was no longer in their driveway. Neighbors whispered that he had left town while the investigation unfolded. The silence he left behind was louder than any accusation he had thrown at me. 3 weeks after the wedding unraveled, Nadia called me into her office. She had a thin folder in her hands and a look that told me the storm had finally reached its peak. "It's official," she said. "Darren used your name to sign a fraudulent loan. The trust clause triggered automatically. Every action he took rebounds onto him legally." I exhaled slowly. By the next morning, news spread through Charleston's waterfront district. Darren Caro had been charged with fraud and identity misuse. His assets were frozen, his job terminated, his reputation once polished and loud collapsed in a single day. Lena did not call right away, but when she finally showed up at my doorstep, she looked thinner, shakier, a woman holding the pieces of a life she had not realized was breaking. "I lost everything," she whispered. "The debt. The investigation. Darren is leaving town. I didn't know he was doing all of that." I stepped aside, letting her into the living room she had avoided for months. She sat on the couch, twisting her fingers together. "Mom, I don't want anything from you. I just needed to tell you the truth." I walked to my desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a folder. The same trust she had once dismissed. "Love is free, Lena," I said, placing it in her hands. "Access is not." She swallowed hard. "Am I disowned? No," I replied. "But you will inherit only if you never again use the law, money, or marriage to harm me. This is my final boundary." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks, not arguing, not defending, just accepting. The final twist arrived 2 days later. Darren received a court date. Lena received her own document, a restraining clause from the trust. She could only touch my estate in the future if she completed mandatory financial counseling and 100 hours of community service. Actions, not apologies. I used the 2 years of savings for something else entirely: free electrical repairs for elderly neighbors who had no one to help them. Kindness deserved that money, far more than cruelty ever did. If you felt this story, tap like, leave a comment, or subscribe for more. They thought I was the weakest person in the room. All it took was one message and one button to show them I was the only one who ever stood upright.